Howdy, Immortalium here, and today I thought it might be interesting to take a look at some of these strange CGI anime films that were made prior to Appleseed. And now some of you might be wondering, why is it significant that these were made before Appleseed? So Appleseed, the Appleseed I'm referring to here, is the 2004 CGI anime film, which I've discussed in the past. And the reason that I'm kind of using that as the benchmark is because when Appleseed came out in 2004, it was hailed as a revolution in Japanese animation. And that's something I've always struggled to see. The 2004 Appleseed film I've always thought has looked pretty janky. The cell shading isn't particularly good. I think it's not a very appealing looking film, and so I've always struggled to see how it could be considered to be a technical achievement. And one day I decided to take a look, what are some of the CGI anime films that were made before Appleseed? And there's a couple of them, and they're very interesting looking. So with that all being said and done, let's actually take a look at some of these films. So the first CGI anime film, as far as I'm aware of, came out in 1998 and was actually a TV film called Visitor. It aired on WoW, and it's a sci-fi film. And if you take a look at the actual animation itself, you can see that it is a very cheap, amateurish looking film. Now, I don't know what the budget was for this film or the talent behind this film, but you can see a lot of the textures are very unimpressive. The movement is very, very crude, and actually the backgrounds look very, very unappealing, to the point where they look like that someone's put them in via a blue screen. It's also worth noting that this film was created by Gaga Communications, which will be a name that we'll be hearing about quite a bit as this video goes on. As for the actual quality of the story of Visitor, I'm unable to say. I'm not even sure if Visitor ever got a release outside of Japan. Let me know if you do know if it got a release outside of Japan. But regardless, despite how ugly I personally consider the animation and art of this film to be, it is nonetheless a very important film, given that was the first time that a film, albeit a TV film, was made in the anime medium in CGI. Following that, we have what I believe to be the first theatrical release of a CGI anime film, and that film is called Alice. Specifically, it's A.Li.ce. It was released in 2000, and again, it was produced by Gaga Communications. And this is a film that I've actually mentioned in the past. When I brought up in the past, I consider it to be very crude looking, very ugly, and a sign of how behind Japanese CGI animation was. And I never thought that I would actually look at the animation of this film and say that it's actually a good thing or an improvement. But let's be completely honest here. The animation of Alice is superior to Visitor in terms of texturing, in terms of lighting, in terms of the character models themselves. It's just a superior looking film. Now, I would never go and say that Alice is actually well animated. I think in contrast to so many other films, whether they be anime or just, Western animation or the like, I think it is still a very unappealing looking film. But I do actually have to confess that it does seem that it was actually a step forward from the awful visual appearance of Visitor. Now, the next one I want to talk about is a little bit different in that it's an OVA, but it is a 3-episode OVA, which is kind of like a film, and I still think that it's very important to bring it up given its place in the history of CGI in anime. And that is a work called Malice At Doll. Now, Malice At Doll was again created by Gaga Communications. We're seeing their name pop up quite a bit. And what I find quite interesting about the little that I've seen from this is that the actual character models themselves aren't particularly bad at all, neither is the texturing, but the actual animation itself, you can see, has quite a low frame rate. There's also a lot of very awkward movements. So this is an interesting situation where I think they did improve the artwork in contrast to the previous films, but I do think the animation is actually worse than what was seen in something like Alice. That same year, in 2001, Gaga Communications released another CGI anime film called Blue Remains. And Blue Remains is, to me at least, a very mixed bag when it comes to its animation. There's these robots that they end up fighting under the ocean, And I actually think that the way that the robots are animated is actually quite decent looking. There's a nice level of detail. They actually move quite fluidly, which is very nice. But then when you actually take a look at the human characters, I actually think they look worse than what was present in Alice or in Malice at Doll. Additionally, I think the lighting is also worse. There's some very ugly looking shadows in this film. I just think that it's a very mixed bag. On one hand, I like what they did with the robots. On the other hand, I think the actual humans don't look that good at all, and the lighting doesn't look good at all. And finally, we get to the last CGI anime film that I'm aware of that came out before the 2004 Appleseed film. And interestingly, this last one wasn't created by Gaga Communications. Oh my god, what a shock, right? So anyway, this one is an adaptation of a manga. The manga itself is called Bano Bano, and the actual film itself is called Bano Bano Kumomo no Ki no Koto, and it came out in 2002. And from what I'm aware of, it's a comedy kind of mixed with some more kind of philosophical questions. And this film was actually released by Amuse Pictures. Now, of all of the movies prior to Appleseed, I think that this film looks the best. There's still some little awkward animation in this film, but if you actually look at the character models themselves as well as the environment, and even I noticed there's actually some very effective use of techniques from anime used in this film that wasn't present in the prior movies. So while I do think that it's still paled in comparison to Western animation, at least when it came to CGI animation at the time, I do think it is actually quite a notable step up from the previous movies, and it's the first one that I would actually say that looks actually halfway decent. So having gone through all of those, what are my thoughts now on Appleseed 2004? Appleseed 2004, I still think it doesn't hold up animation wise, but I am able to see a bit more what they meant when they said that it was an improvement, going as far as that it revolutionized the anime industry. I still can't see that, but I do acknowledge now that, you know, compared to many of these prior movies, Appleseed is actually quite a noticeable step up in terms of the quality of its animation. So of course, as always, I would absolutely love to hear what your thoughts are on all of this. Have you seen any of these? And if you have, you know, what did you think of them? Both from a story perspective and in terms of their animation and art style. Do you know if the first CGI anime film, albeit it being a TV film, Visitor, ever got released outside of Japan? What are your thoughts on CGI anime as a whole, and whether or not it has improved since these movies? What do you know about Gaga Communications? It seems that they made a very concerted push to release CGI anime, and theirs is a name that I don't see that often these days. And of course, if you have any additional information about any of these movies, about CGI anime, etc., please leave it in the comments below. And of course, if you want to support the channel, I would encourage you to use my Amazon and Right Stuff affiliate links in the description below. When you purchase anime and manga through those affiliate links, not only supporting me, not only supporting the channel, but also supporting the anime and manga industry. So I'd highly encourage you to purchase your anime and manga through those affiliate links. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye bye.